You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Okay, hey, this is Walter from iWalter. I did not do a show yesterday. I guess everything's going pretty good. I got my levels okay. Yeah, I wasn't too sure if I was going to do one tonight because I actually kind of knowing it was going to snow around us. I live in, the Norristown area, King of Prussia. By the way, it's Sunday at 1:25, January 24th. Sunday morning. I kind of let go of watching TV tonight. I watched something all day, just one particular show, and which I'm going to actually make this the focus of my show tonight. I need to take a different route. I've been burning myself out with the news segments I put together, and obviously they take a couple hours of my time to, from beginning to end, and it just gets really depressing. So I was going to focus on, I put this in the back burner for a while. It was this show, and it's on Netflix. From beginning to end was the show Glee that started in 2009 and ended just last year. And I'm going to make that the focus of my show. I need to take a different avenue. I know my one friend mocks me for, being obsessed about TV shows, but this was one in particular I really liked, and I stopped watching it for some reason. And it was, I'll mention that in a minute. I just want to get some other things out of the way. Yeah, we had snow. Surprisingly, they were correct for a change. On their prediction for the weather. Not quite as bad as they said, but it was still pretty bad. It started snowing Friday night, as they predicted, almost precisely when they said it was going to start. Now, they said for my area we're supposed to get like 12 feet of snow or something ridiculous like that, which, I generally, when they say something as ridiculous as that generally means we get a dusting or actually nothing at all. Somebody actually from our area actually got a ruler and stuck it in the snow, and it was like, I thought it was like 24. Yeah, it was like something. I don't know. I'll have to see if I can find it. Let me see. Because it was actually sent as a private message and a joke. But I thought he said like 24 inches or something like that, which would be 2 feet. It wasn't anything remotely close. But at the same time, they weren't too far off on, we're going to get a bit of snow. My one friend, he lives in Lancaster. He actually said it started snowing. When he texted me, he said, oh, yeah, it's starting to snow around here. I said, well, we didn't get any. We didn't even start at that point yesterday, or last night, I should say. So, all that being said, we got like decent amount of snow. There was actually an article I put in my list. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it was on Patch News, and it said, man, 88 dies shoveling snow in Montgomery County. Officials warn residents to take it easy while shoveling snow, especially those with, chronic conditions. And, I'm not I'm not out of shape, but I'm not in the best of shape from not working. I'm not overweight or anything. I'm just saying I could easily get out of breath. And I definitely, if I went out there, I'd probably end up cause myself serious harm. Hurt myself pretty badly if I try to shovel. I'm not in the shape to do that kind of work. I'll say that right now. But yeah, that even being said, I'd probably end up, I told my parents already, listen, hey, when it comes to shoveling the snow, if it costs any money, I'll pitch in. I don't have a problem with that. It's not worth risking your life over, just shovel some snow. So I made that really clear. I can't find it now, so I apologize. A friend had posted a picture he had taken a snapshot, and he literally stuck a ruler into the snow, into a snowbank, and again, it wasn't anything close to what we were supposed to get, but it was still pretty heavy. Yeah, maybe he sent it. I'll check my personal stuff because I made a joke back about it. Yeah, I can't find it. It's not even that important. But yeah, I woke up today and I got up late because I figured, I stayed up late last night. I was watching. I marathoned that show Glee, and it's not going to be an easy task. But I figured, hey, if I'm going to do it at any time, this is probably the best time to do it, simply because, I'm not going to get out of the house at all. Nobody was going to get out of their houses today unless you're totally crazy to want to try to, go down your driveway. And there was two incidents in Pennsylvania that I found one, a friend found another one, where people's cars caught fire, I guess the stress on the car. One was actually videotaped from somebody's neighborhood, where the woman actually videotaped on her cell phone some car that obviously could not plow through the snow, and for some reason the car literally just caught fire. I mean, there's obviously more to it than what I'm saying, but the bottom line is, it just kind of tells you. Sorry, I'm scratching my nose. You kind of, it gets to a point listen, you had all this time. They told you for almost over a week now that get what you need because you might be stuck inside the house. Now, I'm one of the firm believers that it was all BS, but then obviously we did get a lot of snow. Not as much as we expected to, but, considering what happened, yeah, we still got a tad bit more than we expected. I am still frantically trying to look for this picture, which I can't find with this. One friend, our friend's brother, had taken a picture, literally stuck it wasn't a 12-inch ruler, it was like a yardstick into the snow, and it was practically all the way up the yardstick. So, but I can't find that picture anymore, so I don't know where I found it to begin with anyway. I didn't want to take it either because it wasn't it was obviously somebody who did that, personally, just to, put up their own picture. I'm not going to, I steal pictures, but I don't steal pictures of people's personal, even something as ridiculous as that. So that's why I can't find it. Yeah, like I said, we got a bit. I was stuck in the house. After a while, I actually had gotten, from this cold weather, I had a severe sinus headache, and I took aspirins and prescription sinus medicine. It was okay, I don't want to mix any more, so I'm gonna have to suffer through this until it goes away. But yeah, I just didn't feel like doing a show at that point, and continue to watch Glee. I actually almost finished 3/4 of the first season already, believe it or not. I don't know how I did that, but I do. I just marathoned it. But realistically, by Monday, I will be back trying to do what I need to do to get back to work. Actually, I had a good long talk with my one friend, Matt, and we were discussing, and he actually did give me a little bit of, and obviously, I don't know how else to say it, like a reality check, so to speak, that, it's going to get to the point that I'm going to really have to decide what I want to do, because obviously they're trying to get rid of me at my job. They're trying to figure out a way to, make Walter no longer exist at the job I work at. And right now, legally, they have no way to get rid of me. So it's obviously you're using this tactic that they're going to they're paying me, so they won't have any repercussions, but they're making it so difficult for me to get back to my job that the only way they're praying for is that I'll finally get to the point that I'll say, listen, I'll just decide to look for something else, and I'll voluntarily leave my position. But honestly, I'm not going to let him, because honestly, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I've been in this particular job for 13 years, and it's difficult. I told my friend tonight, I don't know. I'm like, it's actually really scary, because I have one friend who actually, now thought he was safe at his job. They're trying to play the same game, or a different game, but the same I should say a different tactic to get rid of him. A friend that's a supervisor, and, they've been playing really, they've been playing hardball with him. And, I mentioned to another friend that they sat down, he's a manager at where he works, and they spoke to him and these other managers. They said, and I knew this was going to happen in general, that he works in retail, that they're going to cut the supervisors down in half. They're going to cut half their the positions out, the supervisors. And you're probably thinking, why would they do that? Well, because supervisors make more money than, your front men, the grunts who go in and do the dirty work. Not saying that the supervisor's job's easy. So, obviously a person that's, the blue-collar worker at the position's making a lot less than the person who's making out the schedules and doing other stuff. You're talking one who's salary, and then you're talking another person who's getting paid hourly, which you can basically screw around with them as much as you want. So this one friend just last year, actually it's been over a year, I think, they gave him the same spiel of like, oh, yeah, we're laying people off. We decided that you're going to be one of the people that go because you're, the results of your progress as a supervisor is the least, I don't know how else to put it, the least glamorous. You're the one who scored the lowest. So we're giving you an option. You can resign from the company, or you could just, we're pay X amount of dollars for you to relocate to, another one of our stores, and we will pay for it. But the amount they gave him, he said they taxed him 40% because it was like a lump sum just to have him relocate. And it was like, okay, for the amount he got, he only got, if he's paying 40% in taxes, that's not going to pay for him to physically move all his stuff to the new location. But he had help. It wasn't easy. I don't know how he did it. He said he spends, I would say I thought he said like 4 or 6 months, or a couple months, until he could find, because they gave him 2 weeks to move too, to find a place he could, an apartment or something. And it was not easy. I mean, I could not do it. I have a lot of respect for him doing this, my one friend. And he packed up. He did move. He started work within the 2 week span. He still had nowhere to live, so that's why he was spending all that time in these hotels. And hotels aren't cheap. They're not going to give you any discount. So he's paying all this money, just to just to make sure he can make it to work on time. And it wasn't easy. I mean, he had all his stuff in storage while I was looking, in his new area. and he was living out of hotels and going to work. But I mean, honestly, they put him from the store he was in. They put him in a higher volume store that made literally double the amount of money per year. For example, I might be off on the figures. He said, "Oh, I was in a store that made $5 million a year, and now I'm being placed in a store that makes $10 million a year." So, obviously, it's a lot more responsibility, a lot more work, and he proved himself. So, but they put him in a store that had, issues. He helped, bring it around. The store obviously is having issues. Any retail store is having issues, mainly because people just don't have the money to spend. They're spending other people's money. These are people on welfare, jobless, but yet they are spending money. And the bottom line is, it's difficult for you to meet your what the stores, the higher ups from him expect them to make, make their goals. Like they make these goals, you got to outbeat yourself from the year before. And it's not easy. So, I guess I told my friend in the roundabout way, because I talked to my one friend last night, it's one of those things that misery likes company. We're both in the same boat. We're basically, me and this one friend have been continuously just screwed over in one sense of the word or another way. We've just been continually given, the shitty end of the stick, so to speak. So once again, this, happened to him. And I truly just felt bad for the man. It's like, okay, it happened to basically for both of us all our lives. I lucked out in one way, though, because I was able to land a job that, it was bulletproof. Literally, it was bulletproof. There's no way I could physically get fired unless you physically killed somebody, and even then, you probably would have had a job. And the reason was, I hate to say it, because it was a union job. Now, I'm not saying that's the way I want to have a job, but in today's times, the fact that I was able to continue to maintain this job, in some ways, it's kind of nice. The benefits were excellent. The pay is just extremely good. Now, one thing, I'm jumping around because I really wanted to talk about that main goal. I'm not trying to look for these articles like I normally do, and I might even explain in a minute. There's another reason I think I needed to step back, at least for today, and it was kind of obvious. But when I explain it. But, and I needed the break, yeah. But the one friend that even just, he got tired of trying to work for other people. I'm jumping around between people I know and friends. And he basically pointed out, listen, hey, this is how much I made last year on, going into business for myself. And I was like, wait a minute, you made almost, I would guess, because I don't want to, it's none of my business to mention it's online. So that's why I'm being extremely vague. But I would say he almost made double what I did. And, this shows you he actually proved me wrong about one thing that, I always heard, going into business yourself. One, you fail after the first year. Two, really just doing something entirely on your own, which he did, would be physically impossible to do. I honestly, I had my doubts. I didn't think he could do it. And he proved me wrong. And, he's doing something he actually has an interest in. And he's not speaking to anybody else. He's his own boss. So, that was a kick in the head, too, in a good way. He actually mentioned my one friend I talked to tonight. There's two different friends I'm talking about again. The friend I talked to tonight said maybe you should look into doing something on your own, business-wise. And it's like, honestly, I'll be straight out honest. It's scary. It's extremely scary. 13 years I've been working at the same job. Never had an issue with it. Well, let me take that back. I had a lot of issues with it. But the problem was I had a steady paycheck. I had more money than I ever had ever seen in my life. The most I've ever made when I was in college and working jobs in the past before I got this one, I made no more than $10,000 or $12,000 a year. So I was below the poverty line even back then, or very close to it. It was physically impossible to do anything, but and it was crappy jobs, but that's all I could ever land. And I guess that's one of my biggest scares, unless, I'm as brave as my one friend is that I had spoken to tonight. I'm going to end up at a job that makes that amount again. It's going to be way below $20,000 a year. It's going to be like $10,000 or $12,000 again, and I don't think I could survive with that. So I'm like basically holding on with by a thread at the job I have, and the only thing that's holding me on with that thread is the fact that they're trying to figure out a way of legally get me to leave, because they can't find, they're trying to, but they can't find a legal way to get rid of me without incriminate themselves, without it turning down to a civil suit of some sort. So, yeah, I mean, the one friend I talked to tonight, for one thing, they're on different ends. He got fed up with the situation. He actually obviously had taken a different direction, and he's been very successful. My other friend, he's going to be turning 50, and I will be turning 49. Yeah, I'll be turning 49. Let me see. I even forget how old I am, so let me see. I'm going to put in 2016 minus 1967, because I don't think yeah, I'll be turning 49 this year. He'll be turning 50 this year. So it's scary for both of us. And between this triad, me, the one friend I had spoken to last night, and the one I had spoken to on Friday, I was mentioning some stuff the friend from Friday had told me, and, they sat down these supervisors. Technically, he's in the same boat. There is technically no way they could have fired him before, and there's no way they can fire him legally this time. So they gave the friend I had spoken to on Friday this, what do you call it? This option that, hey, well, you don't have to. We can't. We're not going to fire you, but if you want to, you can go to another store, which is going to be from where he lives now. I would take a guess is 3 hours in a completely different direction than they moved him the first time. Now, the first time they had moved him to a store that was at least 2 hours from where he was living. Now, this time they're going to send him in another direction. It's like one of those things where we can't fire this person because they're not doing anything legally wrong. So we're just going to make their life so extremely impossible to work here, make their situation so hard for them, they're going to want to quit. And he's actually getting very close at this point. He's getting very close to the point that he's going to give in. It's like, you've stayed on this mechanical bull at this place I, won't name the job he works at for this long, and you're more of a braver man. And I have to say the same thing for my other friend too, my friend that I had spoken to last night, that they're both like very brave people to stick with the bullshit that is going on in, our everyday lives. Now, me, I guess I can say I'm kind of brave because, they're playing games with me at my job, trying to get me to quit, trying to make my job so impossible making it so impossible for me to get back into my position, making me jump through hoops and flamed hoops and jumping backwards and doing cartwheels on one hand, that, they're just praying. They're waiting for the time I'm going to like finally give in and say, "Listen, okay, I had enough. You won. I quit." But it won't win for me. Now, my one friend that I had spoken to on Friday night, he's obviously, again, his hoops are a lot more smaller for him to jump through. He's having more of a difficult time, but he's sticking in there. He said, I'm going to definitely, I don't know where he gets all his hope, because he's worked for another company two companies when I first met him that he had gone through, had put him through the same torment. Like, one company actually made a move to New York State, and at the time, I told him, take it because it's a good move. Looks good on your resume. Show that you can move from one state to another. And I think that time I actually helped him move. And I guess that might have gave him the courage too, as me and some other people, that, it's not impossible. But he's still doing it. And in fact, like when they told him, again, it's going to be one of these things, we're going to give you 2 weeks. He's got 1 week's vacation right now. He's only got a couple days. He's got to give his response while he's taking his 1 week off vacation. He's got to let him know, listen, I'll take the move. I'll do the 3-hour move. I'll take whatever little money you're going to give me, and I'll start my job within days after I move into, another place that's 3 hours away from where you originally had told me I need to move to. And he's going to, it sounds like about 99.9%, he's going to do it. So I give him credit for that. Now, what I wanted to mention originally with him, the one I had spoken to on Friday, again, I just keep names out because, it's just protection of the people that I'm talking about, protecting their personal information. He actually said the manager sat down, and it was a woman supervisor who had said this. She actually really respects my friend that I had spoken to on Friday, and sat down, and he said, I can tell she was being really sincere. She said, this is out of my hands. She even tried to convince the higher-ups, I want to keep him in this store. He's been really helpful. He's done a lot for our store. And she says, I can't do anything. And she said to her, and I think he said to this friend, he has another male supervisor, the rest are all female. She came right out and just told him, he said, listen, you guys, that being a white, I've said this a million times, this is what's going to lead into why I'm kind of keeping it on the low key tonight. Being a white male, you're the lowest person, common denominator. You're the person who is the minority nowadays. Right out. And they even said, at a manager's meeting, they said, this person, she said that, if you're a woman, Latino, black, your chance of keeping your job, said it straight out, you're not going to lose your job. You have a better chance of keeping your job. But if you're a white male, and he also incorporated, especially a white male between the ages of 49 and up, which I am 49 or will be 49, your chances of getting a job is next to impossible. It's no longer, from all this political correctness going on, it's not been etched in stone. I have actually even heard similar things on Rush. Listen to the Friday's recap. Been trying to struggle through that. The person who truly gets screwed in society nowadays is the white male. And it's the white male that's 49 and up who's not going to get the break. They're not, they're going to be the highest poverty marked group in our society. And they're the ones who are held responsible, for being in, the way it's, the United States has painted this ugly picture, who's held responsible for being not only the biggest group, white males, for being sexual predators and rapists, and the ones who hold the rest of society down, but they're also the ones that are the highest percentage getting discriminated upon in everything. So, it's almost like the Salem witch trials with the white males now. That, back in the day when you had the Salem witch trials, that's what it is. It's with the white male now. Now, I mentioned to a friend tonight, that was one thing I felt now watching it. I did not see it, at least in the first season, because I haven't seen these shows in a while with Glee. It made me actually watching this show. That's why I was glad to watch it again. It actually made me totally forget about, race differences, gender differences, or anything. Because they definitely, when they made that show, they had a true mixing pot of people. I'm still going to hold off on that. But yeah, the whole point of that show was you got different people with different problems, different issues. You even had a character that had OCD severely, and the point was that how do you overcome your fears and your problems and things like that. But again, I'll speak about that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, the thing was, I felt bad because my one friend from Friday I was talking to, he's going to be on vacation this week, and it's bad enough with this East Coast storm that's hit us. He's also got to consider, in the next day or so, tell him, listen, I'll take this other job position. I will pack up and leave and relocate once again. He's going to do it because he needs a job. And it's really sad. And I have me that starting Monday. I don't have to do the whole thing again. My birthday is in another 3 weeks. And I got to continue to fight to keep my job. I got to continue to, I don't have to, but I need this income for now. And the bigger picture, the really scary picture is, is the fact that, it's definitely looking more realistic. I might have to actually look for a different job, I guess it's my own stubbornness that I'm going to hold in there as long as I can. If they're, I'm taking the low road that, I'll let them continue to pay me. But I made a joke with a friend tonight. I said, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm just saying, I'm being sarcastic. I said to him, I'm every liberal and millennial's dream come true, because I'm doing exactly what the left has made most of our society into, which is basically a person who is not asking what they can do for their country. I'm reversing that, saying, but what can you do for me? And I'm like living their dream because I'm getting a full paycheck, I'm getting full benefits, and I'm not doing a thing for earning it. I'm basically getting it handed to me. So that's like every liberal and, again, millennial's dream come true. Wait, I can sit at home and play video games all day, which I don't do. But I can play video games all day, or I can masturbate all day, or do whatever I want to do, and just basically party all the time, no puns intended, and get a full paycheck and benefits. Hey, this is great. Where can I sign up for this? No, that's not what I want to do. Trust me, it's the last thing on my list. But, I'm just a type of person. I'm so stubborn. Most people who know me, I'm sure if my one friend listens to this, either one of them would listen to this, they'd probably be laughing out loud because they know that I'm, I'm very stubborn when it comes to listening to others or letting others get in the best of me in that direction, in that situation. Now, I mean, people take advantage of me all the time, but when it comes to things that they're trying to make me do something I don't want to do, that's different. They know I won't step down. Maybe that's an Italian thing. I think it really is, actually. Well, at least in our family. I get that stubbornness off both my parents. They're both got that trait in them. I incorporated that. So, hey, I would enjoy if I could do even, I know years ago there was a girl, she actually got a job, I think overnights. This was when I was at Monco years ago. And it was a friend of mine's in one of my classes, a girl, and she actually got a job as a overnight disc jockey. I would probably do something like that. I honestly wouldn't mind. I mean, sit on my butt for 8 hours playing music and basically just making simple announcements and PSAs would not be the greatest. But honestly, it'd probably be something a lot more rewarding than pushing a broom or whatever. Because honestly, I don't think I would enjoy that much. A friend actually said maybe because I'm, put your vices to work for you, so to speak. He didn't say that. I'm saying that, where maybe you should start your own cleaning business. I've heard that in the past. It's probably not a bad idea. I honestly just don't think I would be happy with it, but that's another scary thing. I will, and he did suggest maybe you should do something else you like, if it's entertainment. And yeah, I really would. It's just, right now I have the legitimate excuse with the weather, but I think the excuses won't stop. They're just going to get worse for me. So anyway, before I forget, because I know I will, the one thing I noticed is the second or third time I've had, because once I'm done broadcasting or, recording my shows, I got to put them together. Doesn't take that long. I got them down to, the minimum. I know I have everything, set up on one computer. One computer runs the stories I want to read. The other computer I have now, actually, I do wear, again, I have it hooked up to an amp, so I use my headset. I use my amp for the mic I'm actually speaking into right now. And this one computer basically just does all the live recordings, and then they are processed. They are converted to MP3 files or an MP3 file, and I just put in credits and stuff. So anyway, when it's all done, it all automatically goes to all the social media websites, Twitter, Facebook. Excuse me, I keep on belching and having acid reflux. I honestly didn't eat anything. I had a protein drink and a can of tuna today. That's all I ate all day, and maybe a little bit of trail mix, and I'm still doing all this nasty regurgitation kind of crap. But yeah, it goes on. It does go on most of it's all except one social media thing it goes on. There's like 5 or 6 that it goes to. But lately I've been getting nailed with copyright infringement stuff that I've done years ago that nobody ever looked at. And I think I got a third notice, which is not going to go anywhere. YouTube actually said, it's not even worth pursuing. We basically got to nod our heads and say that we've looked into it and it's not going to go anywhere. Don't worry. They actually literally said, don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about. You're not doing anything. But somebody approached us about your material being copyrighted. Now, I looked at one from the other day, and it was some video I literally did on my iPad or my iPhone, and I was just experimenting to see how good the quality is on the iPad, the iPhone. Put a video together, picked literally a piece, I want to say classical. It's more technically, it's new age music piece. From somebody that I don't even know about. It just sounded interesting. I bought it on iTunes, I think, because I always buy my material, the music from iTunes, and it's like something nobody's even heard of. And out of the woodwork, I mean, literally out of the woodwork, came a notice from YouTube. I could probably even look it up right now, and they said, "Don't worry about it," but somebody made a big huff about it, so we gotta approach this. And it's like the third time within a very short period of time. So, the bottom line is, it was like thinking, okay, how did this come about? Now YouTube is like constantly flagging me. Well, one of the things is, it didn't dawn on me at first. It was like, wait a minute, I do talk a lot about issues, real serious issues in politics, and things that I don't make up, but I find things that support my opinion, and I bring it to light. And my one friend would always say, do you have anything to back up what you're talking about? Yeah, I found one of them. This basically says, I had again 3 in the last week or two. copyright claim is credited to and content in a video I put up called The Park 2012. It said, "Hi, Walter. In Toronto, a copyright owner using content ID claimed song material in your video." It said claimed TuneCore Network by Believe, and copyright song was Wind. Whoever heard of that? Nobody. So, and do you think these people like just mysteriously stomped upon this? And it was like, no, this is somebody that's trying just to take down my YouTube account. And now they're just digging at, they're grasping at straws. Because, again, I just mentioned that. And that was like something, that was the only one I can actually, it popped out. Because some of my, I had seen what, YouTube had written. And they said, don't worry about it. Somebody's just making a big fuss. And the video I did on an iPad was only like a minute and a half. The amount of music I could use was less than that, obviously. It was just enough to fill the problem. It says what to do next if you have any problem. You don't need to take any more action. You don't even need to delete your video. If something went wrong and the copyright owner or our system made a mistake, we have to dispute the process. Well, again, this is the third time this has happened. And every time it's never ended up. There was a couple other videos. But this is like the third one. I guess if people figured, hey, if I make enough complaints against this guy, that'll be one less source for be able to use to, put up his, it automatically does it. I don't do it. It's automatically set up for it to do it for me. Is to take down my account on YouTube and probably try to take other sources away from me, I'm sure. But YouTube seems to make a big fuss about copyrighted material. Well, again, I think personally, when you start attacking people for what's going on, attacking the left, attacking the feminazis, attacking about the true inequalities, people are going to step up to, and it's probably a really small group of people who are just pissed off with what I say. They're going to go, out of their way, and they're going to do whatever they can in their power just to make sure to eliminate my voice. So it's obviously, because I just pulled up that one in particular. It says copyrighted content has been found. The claim is allowing their content to be used in your YouTube. However, ads might appear on it. I have no problem with that. Hey, if you want to add ads to my thing, because nobody's looking at my videos, let's be serious. On average, I'll have to look, but average I get about 4 or 5 people a day to listen to my podcasts. So that's another reason. Why do I need to do them all the time? I do them for myself and hope like the right person listens to it, but obviously I'm getting the right person in the opposite way. The people that are listening to me are just people who are just trying to make sure. Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, the show I just did a couple days ago only got 8 listeners. Show I did the day before that, 2 days before that, were 6 and 8. And actually 3 of them are me anyway. Let's be honest. One time I did one, I got 19 listeners, and they're probably mostly me anyway. So I have like 0 followers, maybe 2 or 3, but I don't have anything spectacular to write home about. So obviously, the thing is, out of that, somebody else is listening to it, and they're not happy on what I'm saying. So what's the best thing to do is just to try to take me down or eliminate my voice. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while anyway, but I'm still at it, but the percentage is like out of 5 people. In the United States, it's 97.2. France is 2.8. And one thing I've noticed, these are on the geological locations of people who listen to me. The percentages from these areas are more than who actually listens to me. So there's something, and some of them never even show up. Because I had friends listen to me, and then they said that it never showed up on the statistics. I cut and paste my statistics. So I got a statistic, like different regions of at least 10 or 12 people. But yes, there's only 5 people listening to me, so it makes no sense at all. Anyway, one was in Dover, Delaware, Norristown, PA, Coatesville, PA, Philadelphia, PA, Sewell, New Jersey, Telford, PA, Danville, PA, which actually Danville, which was a very small percentage. I mean, somebody accidentally stumbled upon my show, was a location of where the place I work, one of the locations, they have a facility. Pennsauken, New Jersey, Bear, Delaware, and Quakertown, PA. But they're all small percentages. That means like somebody might have listened to it for a few seconds and decided like, what's this guy talking about? Hey, whatever. I don't care. I'll take it. I'm not, beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, so, but I don't have anything that's like, breaking the mainstream on what I say or do. But the thing is, though, all it takes is 1 or 2 people just to make a big fuss out of it. Because that's the same thing that happens. I said I wasn't going to get into this. But it literally, you think about the people making the big huff about the war on women, the inequality with minorities, and some other slanders, other things. That's a Freudian slip from my part and my, some sense of the word. Are, probably only like 2 or 3%. And, the war on, gay people aren't being treated equally. Well, that percentage that's making a big fuss out of it is probably like less than 1%. And I'm being generous by saying 3%, but it's such a small percentage. But yet, they have the strongest say on what's being dictated throughout, the United States, throughout these other countries. So that being said, it does only take that, 1%, that 2% of these people to make an argument about something and take something down or take somebody down, which would include me. It doesn't take a large, a large army of people to say, we don't like this, and it's because of our large scale amount of people who disagree with us, or that we disagree with, we want this taken down. No, it's like a handful of people. It could be a college or university. It could be, some, women's movement of 20 people or 15 people that say, we don't like this, make a fuss, push issues, and then become a become nationally heard on what they're saying. And, with the left and the liberal media, they will back this up. And, basically, it's like putting the pebble in a pond, and the ripples become larger and larger. And thanks to the media, the liberal media, and, our, what do you call it, with the government, our corrupt government, they will change that little unheard group of people and amplify it like 1,000,000 times into something that it's not, and have people like brainwashed to believe, oh my God, yeah, well, it said it on the news, or, President Obama said that this certain group of people are being humiliated upon and disgraced upon. It must be true because, Obama said it, or our local news just told us this tonight. This has to be true, because whatever they say is the truth. They wouldn't lie to us, and people are so stupid they actually do believe that. So where does this fit in with me? I have no clue. No, I'm just kidding. I actually do know. Well, how it fits in with me is it could be like 1 or 2 people out there who actually listen to my show and said, "Oh, this guy's like a real asshole. He just hates women. He hates, black people. He hates gay people. So we're gonna take him down by, we're gonna find things that he has not legit, something that he has done wrong, no matter how frivolous it is, and we're gonna make sure that we take him down, no matter how we have to do it. And bottom line, I think that's what's happening. That's why I'm getting these warnings from YouTube, because I paid a lot of money for that intro for my show and stuff. The other one I kind of just made a makeshift music. I put it short enough and just basically looped it over and over again. But the music initially in the beginning of my show was all paid for, and yes, it was paid for from a service, and through that service, I paid from Spreaker. That actually made it like my material. It's been copyrighted, and they can't nail me on that. They can't nail me on anything I'm saying. So what do you do when you can't physically, like I said with the job, can't take you down? What's the next step they're going to take? They're going to play dirty pool, and they're going to say, we can't get this guy, to basically shut his mouth up. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to find any frivolous fault, and we're going to attack that, and we're going to basically whittle away until we can eliminate this guy. And my one friend probably is going to say, do you really believe that's what's going on? Yeah, actually, I kind of do. I mean, that old saying, actions speak louder than words. Well, the fact that they're physically going that direction just to take me down, would say, which I think they are. I would say, yeah, this is true. I see it with my other friends. What people will do, say, oh, this person, I just told a friend tonight. I said, this is true. There was a story I read. I think I mentioned it on my podcast the other night. There was a woman in Norristown who, she was upset with her boyfriend because apparently she caught her boyfriend in bed with another man. And she got so pissed off, she started assaulting him. She ran out of the house and flagged down a cops. This was in Norristown. And told the cops that, hey, my boyfriend has been assaulting me. So they said, well, okay. And they looked into it. They did an investigation. They looked at her. There was not one bruise on her, but yet her boyfriend had lacerations on every part of his body. And they came to the conclusion, he's not assaulting you. You're the one who's assaulting him. So the main thing is, people, again, like what I just mentioned, I hope this makes sense. They will play dirty pool, just to, get their way, so to speak. I mean, it's happening in the government too. Look what's going on with the Democrat side. I mean, look what they're doing, what Hillary, got away with so far. It's basically, and she's gotten caught in numerous lies and scandals. And, the only reason she's actually still be able to run for being potential president is by, basically playing dirty pool, lying more, and making other people look worse than she is. Some people are wising up to that too. Now, again, I didn't want to go into a long discussion about this. Now, one friend, he disagreed with me. He kind of had me convinced at this point. Maybe I misunderstand and stuff. But even when I was speaking about Hillary, he did not disagree about this. But it's funny that, eventually, I hope this is true, but, if you pull enough, play enough dirty pool, pull enough scandals and lies, that eventually people that are even ruthless are going to get to the point. It's like, listen, hey, this is even beneath us. And I hope that would, would be true, because it seems like it's funny for how hard Hillary's been just trying to destroy everyone in her path just to get become the presidential elect for the Democrats. It's just funny how Bernie Sanders is like basically, you know, I can't even think of the right word, but he's like surpassed her on the polls. Like he's leading her by like double. And the man is basically a proven wacko socialist. Like he doesn't believe in anything except like, his belief in anything is socialism, or he's like a full-blown socialist. And yet he's winning on the Democratic ballot because as much as he's just, pure evil at its best, even the Democrats came to the realization we would take Bernie Sanders over top of Hillary, who were just like, really, we're just tired of all her, her BS. So that says something there. Yeah. So, I guess there's some hope. But what the thing was, I guess one friend, that a friend kind of mentioned he didn't kind of agree with me, I guess to say it all. I don't know. I said, I was listening to the Rush. I was listening to the recap from Friday, just last night, or yesterday. And it kind of made sense to me, but I guess I just didn't know how to, what do you call it? How to even, how to explain myself or whatever. But it just made total sense to me how, the way I gather it was I was listening to Rush, and it was about Trump, and it's interesting what's happening with the Republican Party, but how Trump and I'm trying to think. Cruz. It's Ted Cruz, actually, because I was going to say Tom Cruise, but that'd be a real big mistake. Because I really liked Ted Cruz. I said this a while back. I said I'd love to see Ted Cruz, become our potential running mate for, being on the Conservative Party and even just our president in general for the United States. And I said, it's just not realistic. People aren't going to vote for him. And I said that, the Republicans right now, they're just like seriously attacking the man. They're literally just both men, I should say. They're attacking both men, Ted Cruz and Trump. And I said the reason is, from what I gathered, was because Rush was talking about this on Friday. He said the very last part of his show was this millennial called in. He was 28, 29 years old. And he said, listen, the reason why we're going for Trump, even over top of Ted Cruz, which I like both, but let me take the larger picture first. The larger picture is, why do people hate both Ted Cruz and Donald Trump? Well, because honestly, they both technically, in my words, they don't stand for, the Republican Party. They're looking outside the Republican Party basically because they're just so sick and tired of, the BS. The Republicans are, either trying to become moderates. They're trying to win over and literally influence the Democrats. Like, listen, we're on your side. They're trying to appease to all these, millennials and all these, what I like to call, like what Rush calls them, feminazis. They're not, and they're the ones that are actually holding, they're actually holding the upper hand right now. And, you would think, okay, like, we got the upper hand. The people are obviously slowly starting to surface on that, like, hey, listen, we've had enough of this whole, the people that are millennials, the people that are liberals of some sort, maybe, and the women again that are feminist, and other groups, even like Black Americans, Latinos, they're getting to the point, small amounts, that they're actually like, you know what, we're sick of all the bullshit from our side, with the Democrats. We're actually leaning towards listening to, in small amounts, I would think, to listening to what the Republican Party has to say, because obviously, we've won on our what was it, the last thing we had? We won on a large scale. We won some of our positions back. Republicans had taken over certain I'm trying to think, positions. And why is that? Because bottom line is, even some of these millennials and these other groups, they're sick and tired of all the lies and, the scandals that are just surfacing between Hillary and who they thought would have been, a promising choice when they voted for him in two times over of Obama. They're just like, they're finally like, okay, we've had enough. We're at the point now where we're giving a look at what the Republicans have to offer, but and you have them almost at the palm of your hand, these people. But yet, instead of like, okay, well, now we got them in the palm of our hands, let's show them what we're made of, what we really believe in, as being as a conservative. So instead of, taking the high road and showing that you have some backbone, as a Republican, the Republicans instead are trying to figure out ways of catering to these people that are saying, listen, you know what? Let's give you a chance. Let's see what you have to offer. And all they're doing is the Republicans are showing themselves as being extremely weak. By the way, real quick, I did find it was on the Lansdale patch, so I apologize about that person who stuck the yardstick into their into the snow around here, and it was from the Lansdale patch. I thought it was from a friend. Just going to interject this real quick. It says there is already more than 14 inches of snow on the ground near Lansdale, and the storm is forecasted to last at least another 12 hours. That was 14 inches 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago was that 14 inches. So that's pretty impressive. I was judging my estimation by, seeing how high the snow was, covering our cars. That's where I came up with my thing of 2 feet. But yeah, what was I going to say? So, I didn't get to the point with my friend and why he disagrees with what I was saying about Trump. And I'm just saying that disagreeing with what I think about Trump actually holds a more promising chance. And this is, hey, just hear me out, one of these deals. I'm not saying it's true. If Cruz got it, I would be ecstatic. I would be learning how to do somersaults and backflips. But I'm trying to think realistically. I really am. And after hearing what Rush said, I heard it twice because I listened to the one day. I didn't get to the end of the show. I was like, I'll just re-listen to the whole show again. And, Rush was kind of reconsidering too because he's not all, he's not totally for Trump, but at the same time, it looks like, almost, I'm not saying it is, but it kind of looks like probably our only choice at this point if we're going to try to stand a chance of taking, at least trying to take over the House again and Senate, whatever, would be trying to get Trump and then just taking things from there. It'd be a stepping stone. At least, maybe not this, if that would happen, not for the next 4 years, but maybe it would, if something happened at least a little bit better than what's going on, it might open up more doors the next time. Because right now we're losing ground. The Republicans are obviously right now also, the people who normally always vote Democrat they're slowly starting to realize, listen, nothing is happening. It's slowly sinking in that, we got to actually, we got to reconsider who we vote for. And the only thing was, generally what happens when people get to this point, generally what takes away from either party is the third party candidate. So that was the only thing that's also kind of promising, okay, because at least Trump is running for a Republican. It looks like he's not going to change, so, he's going to run as a Republican even if he doesn't get, he says that, I'm going to have to go by that. But if he doesn't get the Republican ticket, he's not going to run for third party just to see if he can still get it, because that would really that would be a shoo-in for if Bernie Sanders got it, he would. I mean, you're asking for major problems, but that would just basically, that would be the end of of our country. But what I'm trying to say, I know I'm doing a horrible job, more so than I normally do. The bottom line is, according to what Rush was saying, because I didn't hear the show from the other day, honestly, but he was saying like this millennial kind of did set him thinking, I guess, in a different way he never thought of before, and it kind of made sense to him. Is this guy kind of laid it out? The guy said, "Listen, I'm a millennial." Obviously, he was probably more, I would guess, of a libertarian than a Republican, and he said he was just, he was giving his input to Rush, and it made total sense that, you got a lot of these millennials people, and this guy was speaking for himself, but still it made a lot of sense, that they're sick with the Democrats. They don't like Hillary. You got other ones who are, obviously don't see too much promise, but that's all they have to vote for is Bernie Sanders if you want to stay with the on the Democratic ticket. And they're sick of that. Basically this guy said they're sick of, he was sick of the Democrat side. He's sick of the BS with the Republicans not basically, not making any concrete decisions. That he said this is why, a lot of these millennials and stuff are, are actually going in the direction of Trump. Now, they didn't say as much, but I think this is the same, and I think this is what even Rush was trying to say. This is why a lot of people are, why, look what we have as our front runners for the Republican ticket. You got, Ted Cruz, and you got Donald Trump. So why is that? Because, these other Democrats, there's nothing wrong with them. They're actually very promising, but they are still basically, they're under, they're conservative, Republicans. They are known as Republicans. Well, what about the other two? They're running as Republicans, and Cruz is a proven Republican. Cruz is a proven Tea Party member that got elected onto the Republican ticket. He came out of the Tea Party. So, that's what these millennials, if they do, I mean, I had my different reasons. I just like Cruz because he's ultra conservative. My one friend's the same way. I don't mean to speak for him. But yeah, it's just like, okay, finally there's somebody who's got a backbone, who's sticking up for the Republican Party, who is a true conservative, which would be Ted Cruz. But the true millennials who are more still on that liberal side of things. What was I going to say? They're going to vote for Trump because, again, both of them aren't what you would consider a not even a true conservative, because they, at least, trying to stay, stand corrected. At least Ted Cruz is a true conservative. But people are a little bit too afraid about that because they think they'd be probably giving up too much. They're not going to want to give up that. But they will, they keep him in mind because he's not a true, what do you call it? He's not a true, I'm sorry, I saw something I was just trying to send to a fan, so I apologize. Trump's not a true, he's not a true Republican. Obviously, like I said before, neither is Ted Cruz. But I think people are more comfortable, personally, with Trump because, he, a friend kind of corrected me on this, but he speaks his mind. He's not afraid on what he's saying. Now, this person who was claimed himself as a millennial, he said, you know what? The reason that no matter what he says, why he's not going out in the polls, mainly is because he's not part of, I'm talking about Trump, because he's not, he's not under that Republican ticket. He's not, a true Republican. He's running as a Republican, but he's not a true Republican. Now, a friend had stood me corrected that, in the past, that Trump was always, for the Democrat ticket. He stood for the Democrats. He did not stand for Republicans. Now, all of a sudden, he's standing for the conservative Republican Party. So obviously, that has a lot to be said. That means, one being that, can you trust a man who ran his whole life as being a Democrat, believed in the Democrats, and now all of a sudden he says he's an ultra conservative? Well, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That is actually really scary. A man could have a change of heart. He could get into office and change his, his thought on things and basically do nothing and basically just favor on what's going on now and say, well, I can't do anything about this. That could happen. But, it's at this point, I feel, I don't want to sway my votes one direction or another and say, well, I know he doesn't stand, a chance in hell to win, but I got to stick for what, this is just me speaking, but I gotta stand with what I can sleep with, the next day after vote and whatever. And I gotta stick with voting for Senator Ted Cruz, because even though he may not win, at least I'll be able to live with my conscience. That's what I'm trying to think of. And honestly, I hate to tell you, I would vote for Cruz if I know that the percentage of people that would vote for him would be higher than what it probably is right now, which it is not bad. But, you gotta think, honestly, you gotta think realistically. Am I going to take the risk of voting for Cruz and run into the same situation that I did before, which was, hey, he might get the presidential elect, but when push comes to shove, when he's running against, if it's Bernie Sanders, he'll get shot down. People are going to be too afraid of him because he will put his foot down, which we need that to happen. But you got to take little baby steps too. So it was like, wait, people are going to see him. It's like, wait a minute, this guy is like ultra conservative, and I'm not saying I'm going to cave into the other side, but you gotta get literally you gotta get your foot in the door. Before you can't just shove open the door and say we're going to change things 180 from where they're at now. And would Ted Cruz do that? Yeah, he probably, obviously, yeah, he would. Do I have a problem with that? No. Does that mean he's going to probably get elected? No, probably not. Just because he is, hey, I believe in that. He's ultra conservative, but come on, let's face it. Does he really? Do you think he's going to seriously stand the chance running against, Satan himself if Bernie Sanders got in, or Satan 2, or probably the number one evil person of Hillary? Hillary, yeah, he would probably lose. And Bernie Sanders, it would probably be a close one, to say the least. Somebody who, people relate to just because, for the people, like my one friend did mention, which is true, a lot of these people who are going to be voting are people that got, a childish mindset on who they vote for. They're going to vote for the celebrity as opposed to the person who's going to really make a difference. That would be the difference between Ted Cruz and Trump. But, I hate to say it, I want the person, one who's going to win, and once he gets in, he's going to have probably, he's going to have the control of the House and Senate, so to speak, to a point. But I think he's going to have probably, have certain guidelines that he's going to still have to follow. And I'd feel more comfortable with somebody who is, going to at least make some sort of a difference. I probably put him on a higher a pedestal than, if that's the right word to use, a higher pedestal than I would put, when everybody voted for Clinton for being everybody's favorite back when he ran. But I wouldn't put him on the same level as, Clinton. I'm talking about Bill Clinton, by the way. So, I've already made the mistake before. I voted for somebody I thought would be really promising, and honestly, it was just a waste of vote. And I can't deal with that again. I can't, whoever becomes, the Republican forerunner for president, doesn't matter who it is. I mean, I don't even care at this point, because anybody's going to do a better job than who's in there now. I don't care if it's Ronald McDonald. I'll vote for him, honestly. But I'm being sarcastic again, obviously. But the bottom line is, I would think out of those two, it's going to be a lot more promising. Obviously, with Ted Cruz, yeah, it would be a definite, a large step in the right direction. But come on, let's face it. Look who we have that's going to be voting. You got a lot of people that are pissed off. And, I mean, a lot of this, I can't even think, mistrust that people have for a true conservative is basically, I mean, I don't know how else to put it, is because people are too afraid to vote for somebody that's ultra conservative simply because the Republicans just tarnished, what we believe in. They literally, from their lack of, a backbone, so the people who stand for, us that are true conservatives has totally been tarnished by such a weak group of people that are, representing our beliefs. So, and people, they're going to see that. They're going to see, like, okay, we know what the Republicans are supposed to stand for, but they don't. And then we have these Republicans that, are pushovers. We're tired of we're having dictated from the Democrat side. We have these Republicans that are pushovers. And now we have this person running that is an ultra conservative. And honestly, they're going to say, we're not ready for that. That's too much. So, hey, again, I'd like to see that happen, but honestly, you're just, I don't know how else to put it. You're just basically signing your own death warrant by doing that. Now, if he gets it, I'll be ecstatic if he got it actually in as president, Ted Cruz. But I think it's just basically, I don't think it's going to happen for one thing, and I think the reason is, for one thing, it's going to be too risky. I really do. I'm hoping, don't get me wrong, I'm hoping I'm really wrong. Now, you know what? My main reason for doing this show, because it's like going on 3 o'clock, was to do a segment on Glee, which has actually been kind of weakened by now because I actually went off a lot longer than I wanted to. Because, see, when I'm off for a day, this happens. But, give or take, everybody is going to find something politically wrong with something else, no matter what it is. And any of the shows I watch, I'm sure I'll get shot down. Do you know that's a bleeding heart leftist show? Do you know these shows are for feminists, or these shows are gay, or these shows are for kids? And I get tired of that stuff. I don't sit down to, hey, when I was in college years ago, we had assignments, we had things we had to do, but the whole purpose of TV or something is just to get your mind off of everyday BS that's going on in your everyday life. So, I don't watch shows and expect to have, 100 question tests at the end, or I don't dissect and, figure out, okay, well, this show is appalling because of this or that. No, I just watch a show. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, then I'm not going to watch it. So, and there's a lot of people that are celebrities. I don't believe in their politics whatsoever. I mean, I'm like on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Because I think they're like Fruit Loops and left-wing wackos. But if they're good entertainers, I'll put that aside. Now most people are saying, well, you're contributing money to an unworthy cause. Well, no, I'm not actually. Well, yeah, you are in a roundabout way. Even if it's on commercial TV, or even it's on my Netflix account, which I don't pay a dime. Oh, I pay $7 a month, but I never use it. So it's either $7 I'm flushing down, $8 a month that I'm flushing down the shitter every month, or I just say I'll watch whatever, and in particular Glee, I watch that show because I just like it. I actually found it very entertaining. This show brings back memories. I never watched these shows, but back in the day, there were shows like Fame. There was a TV show made out of that movie, Fame, and some other shows that kind of really were inspirational. They were shows that were musicals and dramas. Now, Glee won, I think, a bit of, a lot of awards. I thought Emmys or whatever you call them, for being the best drama, best musical. A lot of the music they covered, I mean, everything aside, these people were just plain talented. Every single person they picked. Now, there's even a actor. His name is Kevin McHall, and he played his character Artie Abrams, which was supposed to be a guy in a wheelchair. Now, the guy's not crippled in real life, and he's actually a decent-looking guy, but he downplayed his looks, and he looked like the typical person that would be severely, because Glee was about a high school elective for kids to go into that had some sort of talent. Well, it's funny because this guy Artie, again, he's a decent looking guy, but he wore these nerdy looking glasses, look like, kind of dressed it a little bit like somebody would be in one of those when I was a kid, one of those resource rooms, like kind of retarded, but, slow, and acted that way. But the guy really can sing. He's got an incredible voice. And I looked at what he looks like now, and obviously it was just, he was staged to look like this dorky looking, somebody that would probably been, even in a wheelchair, would have been extremely picked on, to the point that the kid would have been messed, a real person like that would have been messed up for life. Because people have no, kids have no scruples when it comes to picking on people. I mean, I was one of those people, so I'm speaking from experience of being the dickhead. But years ago, when I was in first grade, or actually kindergarten, I think it was, what was that when you go out and play in the playground? I was one of the kids, and I actually ended up in one of those resource rooms for my entire life in high school. I would go when we were playing in the playground. I mean, I was like, I don't know how old. I would go up and I would tease the kids from the resource room, and I think one was a really tall, kind of hefty girl. Not hefty, she was like big bone girl, and I think she actually came after me. But yeah, I would like torture the kids, even like when we were playing in the playground. I would torture the kids that were in the resource room. Well, this guy Artie would be one of those kind of people. He played that character, and he played it very well. I remember, because again, it came out in 2009, so it probably was like after the second year of watching it. Glee actually came to Philadelphia. I don't know if it was the Wells Fargo, whatever they call it now, or what they call the Den. They had the actual actors, mainly the actors who played the kids, because most of these people who played kids were in their 20s, their mid-20s, when they actually, played kids of 16 or 15, because most of the shows on Disney, they hire kids. But most of the people on, like, the major networks, they don't even want to be bothered by that. So they hire, basically grown adults to play teenagers. I mean, these are people that basically graduated from college because of what they look like or who they look like, are fortunate enough they could land a role playing a 15-year-old kid. And it's funny because, speaking about that, I didn't notice because I was kind of curious, but the one actress, she plays the gym teacher. She's really funny. I could just picture her and everybody else. She plays like the epitome of the most evil, and she plays it well. Jane Lynch is her name. She plays this character named Sue Sylvester, and she plays the character of like the super villain on the show. She's a gym teacher, but she is so hateful. She plays the character she plays is a typical feminazi that just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bump my mic, that just plays that character that you love to hate. Like you love to basically just to throw off the side of a cliff. But she adds a lot of humor to it. And just a side, note on her. I could just picture her most of the time, that some of the stuff that came out of her mouth, that it's so vicious and so vile that you can't help but just laugh at it. I mean, like, literally, she's like, the character is pure id. But, I mean, I'm like thinking, because I'm laughing at some of the stuff that comes out of her mouth, because it's just so wrong, that I could just imagine when she was playing against, pushing people in the lockers, or this character, Matthew Morrison, who played this character named Will Schuster, who plays the person who puts the Glee Club together, who the character Sue Sylvester can't stand him, picking on him, saying his hair looks like a bird's nest or something like that. Some of the stuff she said, I could just picture them like saying, we got to retake it, because probably when she's like trying to say these lines, I'm sure she's busting out laughing. I'm sure he's like can't keep a straight face. But anyway, the character of Jane Lynch, she plays a 29-year-old gym teacher, and she's actually in her 50s. So that's one of these cases. But she kind of did show her age a little bit. It's like, I can't believe she's only 29. So I looked it up. She's now 55, so she had to be at least 49 or whatever. But they felt compelled that, okay, you know, and she actually is great because in real life she is, she's gay, but she plays the character very well of being just somebody who just hates people. Like, the character, you know, tries to have relationships with men, but because they don't turn out in her favor, she becomes, you know, even more hateful towards men and people in general. You know, and the character admits to, you know, admiring the person, the men she hates the most is actually the men she has a crush on or admires the most. So she does the character incredibly well. But the point was, she was also a person, you know, she's playing a 29-year-old woman who's actually pushing 50 at that time. And it's believable. The other characters are all in their 20s, and they were playing 15-year-olds. But I actually did see them years ago. I had, like, it was sold out, so I had to buy, like, the tickets from, like, one of these third-party things. I really wanted to go. And the tickets that were left, no, it was practically sold out. I think it was. I had to buy through a third-party company. I forget how much I paid, and I had to buy 2 tickets. So I sold the one off, barely made the money on the one ticket I bought. I think it was like $200 for both tickets. It was something like that because I wanted, like, decent seats, and I got ones on the floor. And I got to see the Glee cast and in, you know, live. And they had these actors. Like, they didn't get anybody else hired out just to do this tour they did. And they were still shooting the show, but they actually got these guys together, these people, these guys and gals. And it was incredible. It was really incredible. I'm, like, watching the show from day one again. Again, I've almost finished the first season already. And it was like, wow, every one of them, like the guy Kevin McCall, which was the weakest, supposed to be the weakest character, had the strongest, the most powerful voice on singing. Like, I was very jaded to liking Leah Michael, because I think she's, like, incredible. She's got a really powerful voice. My least favorite, I'd have to say, was the actor who, on the show and off the show, just, you know, basically didn't even hide the fact he was gay. Was Chris Coffer. He just reminds me too much. There's nothing against him, but he reminds me way too much of just the way he presented his character. Because I don't know how he is in real life, but how these... Because I'm sure he, you know, influenced a lot of these, you know, millennial gay men who came out or, you know, are not afraid. They said he's 25 now, so he was actually the only one who was Chris Koffler was actually the only one who was truly a teenager doing the show. The rest were all in their 20s. Because he had acne on his face and, you know, he was going through that teenage, what do you call it? But don't get me wrong, the guy is extremely talented, but he is obviously, you know, not only did he play a gay character, he really is gay in real life. But they said he's now he's age 25, so you minus 26. He was at least 19 though, but so he was basically out of high school. But he was the closest match. The rest were all in their 20s or mid to late 20s playing these kids. But the thing was, yeah, this show reminded me of, like, it was a very powerful influence. There hasn't been a show like that since probably the show of Fame. I think there were shows kind of like that before, you know, musical shows. But Glee definitely just, I thought, personally, I think it really revolutionized television the way I had, you know, that, because I really don't, for years, I never really liked network television. Most of the shows I watched were, if there were any shows, it was when Fox started PBS. I mean, not PBS, when Fox, you know, before that, I was watching PBS shows because there was nothing on regular TV to watch that was remotely entertaining. It was definitely not educational, definitely not influential. So I would be watching from morning till early morning, you know, from morning till early morning hours. I would be watching all PBS TV shows. And it wasn't until, I guess, years later that Fox decided to become a major network that wasn't on, 3, 6, or 10. But they became a national network. The first one that was, back in the day, people don't know what that means anymore, a UHF channel that became a major network, that I started like, okay, there's a few shows on here that I'm remotely interested in, but not that many. So, on the entertainment perspective, Glee was like, wow, this is something really different. It's something I've always had a dream that I wish I could do, which was actually, one, be in entertainment, two, actually be able to sing. And, from watching this show the last couple of days in marathon, I mean, I don't know how many times I like just broke down and cried, or just emotionally just stirred up all types of emotions that, a lot of these shows would actually drew me to watch an even Disney Channel, because, you get to the point that PBS kind of just doesn't have much good on anymore. Network television really never did. And, the stuff was lukewarm on 3, 6, and 10. And, yeah, I mean, that's what, kind of like, the only thing that really got me started, well, one on Disney was from when I worked in this daycare, these kids were like into these kid shows that were obviously, they were also geared towards younger generation singing music, and that, these kids were talented and they had more to offer, these kid shows, than these adult shows. But then, like, back in 2009, which was, I remember I watched it when it first came on, Glee came around, and it was like, wow, this is the first time I'm actually waiting to watch a show or watch the reruns or trying to catch a show on national TV. And it just, it was stuff that, it was, to me, it was actually, it was kind of new, because growing up, most of the shows, there was nothing like that. Like I said, Fame I never really watched. I knew it was out there, but I always had like a hidden interest in, college actually brought that out, like musicals, shows that were, not that I've watched yet, but like I'm using it as an example, so please understand me. Like West Side Story, I still have to watch. I'm guilty of saying I never watched it. A few years ago, I actually watched, because that was big, was Grease. And, shows, movies, that was a movie, but shows or movies that, showed me that, because when I was really young as a kid, I always thought, oh, well, musicals are, not my cup of tea. I don't like musicals. I can't stand them. You go to college, they expand your mind, they introduce you to, but actually, let me take that back for a minute, because I remember when I was a little kid, like 2 or 3 years old, growing up, and Disney was on the major networks. I forget what they used to call it back then, and where they would show like the Disney movies on national TV. See, I thought I saw it in the movie theater, but it was before I was even born. Was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins. I don't want to say Sound of Music, but I'm going to throw it in the niche because I've never seen that. But those were Disney shows, Disney TV shows that were literally musicals too. So that was my, first feel for that. But that kind of died out because nobody else showed anything like that. But I used to love those movies that were put on TV, or musical shows that Disney, they weren't on a kids network. They were for families. And again, I was like 2 or 3 years old at the time. And, my parents would sit me down and we would watch shows like that. I mean, we used to watch when I was a little kid, like that age. My parents would watch Sonny and Cher. I remember that being on live TV. That was like a musical show, but not the same. But I kind of actually really enjoyed those things, and they kind of like disappeared for like a long time. So when I got reintroduced to, shows that were musicals, even movies that were musicals, because I actually was too embarrassed when I was a teenager Another thing was I was always into those movies about dancing too. And I was way too embarrassed to actually go to those. But that was a big part of my life when I was 15 and 16 were those break dancing movies. So I finally broke down. I wanted to rent them. I ended up buying them because they're like $5 a pop and watching those. And then I actually bought years ago, because I know a friend that was, I think when he was in high school, they actually performed. It was Grease, but I saw the movie. I loved it. Shop of Horrors, loved that. That was a musical. But yeah, I always had a passion for that stuff, but I just never really had taken it that far. And then, I got introduced, because I had this love for, musicals that had to be pushed away because there was nothing else out there that showed that there was an interest in that, or, dance movies, whatever. Even though I grew up when I was a teenager, every afternoon, when I got home from high school, I would watch this show called Dancing on the Air. Similar ones. I loved those shows, those dance shows. I loved, and then when I was younger, my 20s, I loved dancing. I used to go to the clubs and stuff, go and dance, enjoy myself. Would love to learn how to sing, and seeing other people do my dream was just great. And that was like, I think when these kids were talking about these shows on Disney and I stumbled upon it, that's where I got into the Disney network years later when they no longer made shows just for families but geared it more towards kids. Then Glee came out in 2009. It was just like a whole new awakening on, musical dramas. And it was like, wow. Now, that show had ended just last year. But sadly, because it ran from 2009 to 2015. I'm trying to figure out when the last episode was shown. Let's see. Season 6 was only 15 episodes. They cut that extremely short, too. It said March 20th was the very last show of last year. But that show was really good. God, it just sends chills me thinking about it. And I stopped watching it for one reason was because when I got caught up, like I watched a marathon originally, the first couple shows. First season was still being aired. And I just got tired of all the freaking breaks they put in. Like, we're taking a couple months off before we come back again. Because the show, obviously was heavily commercialized. And, the whole thing is about making money. So, yeah, my interest got lost there for that. It was funny, though, because when I went to that concert, I just did on the whim. I bought, I wanted something that I could remember the show by. I always buy like a T-shirt or whatever. I put some extra money down. I bought this, which I thought looked really cool. That's why I bought it. It was a football varsity of the one character, which I didn't know it. It just I liked the look, and it's a Glee concert of 2000, whatever. I'll have to look for it. It's in my closet. And I had no clue what character it was. I just like the thing, and it was the actor Corey Montes, who played the character of Finn Hudson, and I didn't realize because it has the number 15 on the varsity, and I thought it'd be worth something, but it's not. But I got it for strictly because I just, it was something I liked. And it was like, okay, I'll probably at least wear this. I don't really wear T-shirts, but it looks so damn cool. I'll probably wear this. And here, by the way, the football varsity number and the football varsity was supposed to be the character of Finn's. So I don't know if that was geared because it was actually in a men's size. It was a football jersey, the one you put underneath, your pads and stuff. They were selling those at the concert. I think I only paid like $50 for it, which sounds like an awful lot, but trust me, that's cheap for an actual varsity. But it was official for the concert. I bought that and I put it aside. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. It's not very warm. And if you wear it during the summer, because it's made of that polyester kind of feel, it gets extremely hot then. So you can't win either way. It's almost like a hockey jersey style, but it's really a football jersey. And then it was like, yeah, this is really cool. Well, here's the thing, though. The guy in real life who played the character Finn, which I'm sorry to say, he died. I'm looking at it now. He died July 13th, 2013. He actually, because I make jokes, he was from Canada. He was picked up. He was a Canadian actor. And he died from an accidental drug overdose. And this man, I mean, his voice wasn't perfect, but he sang a lot of, he covered a lot of good songs on Glee. He definitely had a powerful voice. He was a little off key on some of the notes. And it was definitely a sad thing. And the weird thing was, he was one of the actors that was at that concert that I went to go see back in the day when I bought that shirt down in Philadelphia. So that was kind of weird. Because I heard that, it's hard to believe it's like over 2 years ago that he just passed away. Well, he passed away from a drug overdose. That, it was a shock when I heard that. And just recently, though, there was another shocker that, because what's happening, it was this guy he played his character named Puck, Mark Salin. Decent looking guy. He's he's 33 now. He was in his 20s when he was on the show. Unfortunately, I'm looking at it right now. It says Mark Salin from Glee star arrested for child porn. And I remember hearing about that. That one was recent. That wasn't too long ago. It says December 29th, 2015 is when he got busted. So, yeah, actually he looks a lot different than he looked on the show. And that was only a few years. It just went off this past year. Yeah, he looks really, really different. Again, really good entertainer, a really good singer. It's just a shame when you hear this stuff. Because he was the second one that I heard of that got, busted or had something happen to him. But, yeah, it was on TMZ of all things. I hate to read that because that's bullshit stuff. Law enforcement sources now tell us that they are already seen more than 1,000 images of child sexual exploitation on Salin's computer. Cops also seized his electronic devices, including tablets and cell phone. And it goes on to other stuff. So it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's actually really disappointing because the guy is really talented. But yeah, it's just, I guess when you are on a show like that show was very popular. And over the years, I got little trinkets here and there, like small things, DVDs. I went and seen in the movie theater when it came out was this thing called, they made a Glee movie. It was called Glee 3D Concert. And I actually did see that in the theaters because, I love the concert I went to. I loved the show, the little bit I saw of it. And I kind of let it, you haven't heard my friends were saying, well, you never talked about Glee before. I was like, it's been a couple years since because I got tired of the way they broke up the show every season. And it made me lose interest. Now it was again, it just brought out a lot of emotions on that show that I totally forgot about. Yeah, I almost am afraid, but July 15th, 2013, with Corey Moneth. It's a Glee star, Corey Moneth, found dead in a hotel in Canada, who played the heartthrob Finn Hudson in the show Glee. Again, these people were really, big, influential people for all ages. And I'm wondering, too, the porn one I can't say much about, but I'm sure this guy actor Corey Moneth, who played Finn on Glee, he was probably under a lot of pressure too. I'm sure that was part of it. And a lot of people, they relieve their stress by getting into drugs and stuff. Because, Glee for 6 years, or at least I would say it was on for 6 years. At least the first couple years, it was on for 6 years, probably all 6 years, was, a really big thing. It was all over every tabloid, every magazine, every paper, everything. And and when I stopped watching it is when, it started really just pulling people on their, everyday lives. It just basically pulled them apart. It said on this article I found from, I hate to read this one, but it's on CNN, so I apologize. Remembering Corey Moneth. Corey Moneth was found dead in Vancouver, British Columbia, hotel room on Saturday, July 13th. The actor who played heartthrob Finn Hudson on Glee was 31 years old. His death was ruled an accident, the coroner's office announced on Wednesday, October 2nd. The findings concluded that Moneth died of a mixed drug toxicity involving basically large amounts of heroin, and it was combined with ingested alcohol. So they say they're kind of getting it down to, it was an accidental thing. Nobody knows. I'm sure probably the level of stress that actor was under, that man, because he was 31 at the time. I'm sure the stuff you take up with probably, I would assume, the paparazzi, just fan base alone is just, it's overwhelming. And it's kind of funny I mentioned that because you're probably thinking, well, no, he just got caught up in the whole scene, which that is part of it. But what's kind of funny on a lower scale? There's some girl, and God, I love her. She's from another country. She's like almost, I would have to consider a stalker fan of Lady Gaga. Sweet girl. I mean, extremely nice girl. And she actually started a fan base thing for Lady Gaga. She's from another country too, young girl, and she's got something with her face or something, I think, and she's kind of like holds it on a personal level for herself that her face is slightly distorted, but she's a big. I think she's from like, I don't want to say Germany, but something. What is the other country that's kind of almost speaks German, so to speak? I'm drawing a blank. Not Switzerland, but something like that, somewhere around like the German-speaking countries, not Germany, so to speak. But she really like drew large crowds of people. Like she became, a celebrity herself from just, posting like a plethora of, what do you call it? Like, Lady Gaga stuff, like posters and pictures. I mean, she's actually, apparently, I guess at one point she made herself broke. I'll have to look for her. She's a sweet girl, though. I have her somewhere. I'm looking on my Facebook page. Usually I can find her right away because she's always posting stuff all about Lady Gaga. I mean, she's got tattoos and, young girl tattoos, and she started her own fan site with her name, but all dedicated to Lady Gaga. She paints tons of stuff. She painted a car that her parents gave to her, with Lady Gaga stuff on there. I mean, it's ridiculous, I know. But where's this going with the Glee thing I was just mentioning? Well, you're going to love this. I mean, it won't. I felt really bad. She really just got people so drawn into her that she actually was starting to have like kind of like a nervous breakdown because she didn't handle all the fan base she gave herself from being a fan of Lady Gaga. And yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy, but yeah, she actually said, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of responses I'm getting from all this stuff I'm doing, just being, at the head of a fan club for Lady Gaga, this girl from another country. And she literally was getting at the point, she says, I can't handle it. I'm like, she was literally having a breakdown. Now, I can't find her name. I was kind of curious. Now, I don't want to get people, like, all 5 people is going to give her another nervous breakdown. No, she literally across the globe She's had people that just really just overwhelmed her with, like, the stuff she put. And she literally was starting to have a breakdown. So getting back to what I was saying about Glee, and, I can almost, when I seen her going through this mental breakdown, this girl, I could kind of see how these celebrities, who are really under the limelight all the time, whatever, under the spotlight, how they get to the point that they get into getting heavily influenced into drugs and stuff. And not that she did, this girl. I'm still looking for her, by the way. And it kind of makes sense that, when you go to people not even knowing your first name or even knowing you by face, to, you become some type of celebrity of some sort. Maybe not like, a movie star or a TV star, but you get some type of, people start to, recognize you by face, by name. I mean, I started doing a little bit of that when I was starting to, trying to look into this whole thing with, I don't even see her. Maybe she dropped me as a friend on Facebook. When I started going over to the Exton Mall to see what's going on, and I didn't get overwhelmed, but I could see it starting to happen that, I'd go over to Exton Mall like once a week. I don't doubt I'll do it this week with all this weather and more important things to worry about, just to see what was going on with this Kevin Smith film. And the first time, I talked to people for a good long time, gave them my spiel, listened to them, what they were talking about, what their interests were. But, the second, third time or whatever, maybe a couple times I did it, people like, they started like looking at me as like, hey, I know this guy. So how does this fit into the story I'm fitting in with this girl who I try to fit into the Glee? Well, when people start noticing you and they know you by face and they start to pay attention, I found her. Her name is, just to help her out a little bit, not that she needs it, Laura Croft, Korf. When, people start, like when you start to make even a small fan base, people start to remember you. And after a while, that can either work in your favor or not. But my thing is like, yeah, but God, if I continue to do this, make my presence known, people are to start to say either good or bad things about me. But they're going to start to, pay more attention to me, so to speak. And I guess what I'm trying to say is when you go from the, not being somebody that a person won't even give you a second look, like they don't even know who you are, to, oh my God, like, hey, I know this guy, I saw you before. That actually even happened with Kevin Smith. The first two times I saw him, the second time I saw him, I said, yeah, I saw you in Red Bank. The second time it was in New Jersey. And I said, oh, you probably don't remember. He said, yeah, I do remember you. I remember the last time I talked to you. I don't forget. He didn't forget who I was. So the bottom line is, when you become, less of a person that is, hidden behind the scene to somebody that's known, and that starts to grow, and you get more people acknowledging, like, hey, I know this guy. And, slowly you become either some type of celebrity in your own little universe. It becomes like a little bit overwhelming. And if you're not used to it, on, probably the scale that these celebrities are taken in or ingested, because you're getting people from all around the globe, it must become like very overwhelming. And it doesn't surprise me that some of these people get into drug abuse and stuff. And by the way, the girl Laura, just on Facebook alone, she's got over, looks like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but she's got over 3,000 friends. And she made like, an IP address she had made up with an official fan base for, her fan club, which she actually tore people away from Lady Gaga's. Because Lady Gaga has her own official fan club page. And this girl, Laura, actually stole a lot of her fans when she made her own one, just dedicated. It's a fan base thing she made, dedicated to Lady Gaga. So she stole more than 3,000 is the bottom line. But yeah, just recently it came in when she got very overwhelmed when people were like, actually, you know, how do you deal with this when you got people emailing you from all around the globe, asking questions, saying, you know, hey, I'm a fan of your fan club, I'm a fan of you now. And yeah, she literally, she said she had to take a back step. Like she was literally panicking. She was having a breakdown. So, and yeah, and I mean, that's just a person that about 99.9% of the globe don't know who this Laura Croft is from Europe somewhere. I think it's the Netherlands because it says NL on her thing. Something like that. But she got to the point, though, she had to take a step back. She was actually having, she was like, you know, I can't handle this anymore. And it lasted for a little bit of time. I was like, wow, you know, I like my heart dropped down into my throat because it was like, wow, this poor kid. I don't know how old she is, but this poor kid, you know, she's having a nervous breakdown because she bit off more than she could chew. Okay, so she was born in 96. So I am so bad with math. What is that, 20 years old? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. Yeah, she just turned 20. And it's like, boy, this poor kid, you know, she's like beyond obsessed. She's like basically full-blown stalker of Lady Gaga, even though she lives in the I can't even pronounce where she lives. But she has, I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm bad, so I have no room to speak, but she says it lives in Dev Vetter, and I can't pronounce his last name. Let me see what his country's around, though, or what his location is. It looks really nice. I would assume it was like oh, yeah, it does. It says city in Netherlands. So, yeah, she lives in the Netherlands. She speaks English, though, but she's got a little bit of an accent, a strong one. So they speak fluent English as well. But when I read that, like, this poor girl, literally, like, she was having panic attacks and stuff. It was like, oh my God, you know, I feel bad. This poor kid's like, you know, she again, I said this like 5 times on the same show. She was like literally, you know, it put my heart in my throat. It was like, oh my God, this poor kid. But yeah, getting back to the Glee, yeah, that's what my guess is what happened to this guy, actor who's now passed away. Actually, 3 years ago. I'm sorry, Corey Moneth, main actor. They were all really good. Leah Michael is the only one right off the bat I can just mention her name without even looking it up. Corey Moneth, I just known him by actor, you know, the character he played. Chris Coffer, I just remember him as the character name of Kurt. Naya River or whatever. She's Latino. She was really good. She played a character named Santana Lopez. She's got an incredible voice. Now, some of these characters, when they first started out, these characters actually had really, really like no speaking roles. So another one was this character Heather Morris, actress. Heather Morris had non-speaking roles. She was a cheerleader on the show, and her character was Brittany. They actually did a thing on Britney Spears where Heather got her limelight. her character Brittany was all about Britney Spears. She's actually 28 years old, and she played like a typical dumb blonde, but she got like bigger and bigger roles that were speaking parts. And same thing with Naya. But the other one who was a big character from day one was Diana Argan. She played Quinn. So she was like, but a lot of these characters were like beyond emotion. They were really emotionally strong. They just pulled on your heartstrings. Even one who was really a good actress, an excellent actress. She was there from day one, was Amber Riley, who played Mercedes Jones. She's got incredible voice. One of the songs she did, one of the shows had me like literally in tears. All of them did at one point in some time. Even Jane Lynch did something that just showed a different side of her. You know, the character of Jane Lynch, or Sue Sylvester, who was the most hated person character you would love to hate. She did some heartstring pulling episodes. Now this one I can't mention. She's Asian, but her real name, or actress's name, is Jenna Oswich. Well, I'm not even kidding. It's Auschwitz or something. Kotzwitz was a really strong character who had no speaking parts at first either. Credible voice, but she played the name they gave her. The character name was very stereotypical. Tina Cohen Chang. Girl's incredible. They're all like, these are the main actors from like season 1. I'm looking at Mike Chang. Was the character name. This guy Harry Shun Jr. Another really good actor. They gave him a name that would fit his appearance because he was Asian. From the original show, girl Gemma Mays played Emma Pillsbury. She's the one who had a extreme bad case, the character of OCD. She's incredibly cute. She's actually 36. She was like a really strong character. They were all like, I don't know how they casted this group of people, but they did a really good job. And it's like one of these things you just can't turn away from. I did for years. I turned away from this show, but that was just because I got so tired of the way the network was trying to get people, to make more money. Is just that whole, I guess, supply and demand, or I don't know, like, let's make these people want more by, putting these long breaks in between shows. I mean, this was one of these shows, they would show an episode and it'd be like a month later before they put another one on, month and a half, a couple weeks. Even that's when it came back from breaks. And they knew they could get away with this because this show was like really up there. And I just got to the point, it's like, listen, if you're going to continue to do this, I'm just going to, like, you're making me lose interest. And it really worked. I think if they didn't do those games, that show would have still been on the major network that it was. Anyway, it says American comedy series, but it was actually a drama musical series as well. And it's the same people. I hate to say it, but it's the same exact people who also, which they're not as good as it brought you American Horror Story and Scream Queens. And that just, like, to me is just like a disappointment for Leah Michael, because she's like, she could do a lot of Broadway, I think she should, but she, I guess maybe she couldn't get anything else. I don't know, but they put her in that Scream Queens and it did get re-signed for another year, but that's just to me, that's just such a degrading show for her. I don't know how else to put it. But anyway, Glee, I was surprised by what the network, or the different people, what do you call it? What the ratings were from 3, rating services online, IMDb, TV.com, and Rotten Tomatoes. None of them projected that show as being that great. I mean, it got 6.7 out of 10 for IMDb. Oh, okay. TV.com gave it the highest, gave it 8.2. Rotten Tomatoes gave it 68%. So that, to me, is like above lukewarm. And it's a solid tomato, but it looks like they got their lower ratings as the last two seasons. So that kind of explains it. Because I'm telling you, the first season was extremely strong. I think it just fell apart when what do you call it? The actor who played Flynn committed suicide. That was the kiss of death for that show. Honestly, that just made it kind of. I think that's when it started. Like the people had taken, you lost a character, Corey Moneth, when he committed suicide, or not committed suicide, the accidental death thing. I think that's probably they were trying to keep this show going after that, I think, and that's when it started kind of crumbling apart a little bit. I'm sure even the other actors must have easily felt that, because I'm like looking at it, and most of these shows were pushing for season one especially, we're hitting almost 90% solid red tomatoes on the tomato meter for the critics' reviews on Glee. So my guess, I'm not going to dig into it too much further because I want to get this done, was probably most likely when that happened. I mean, you're losing, a major character, and also, let's face it, a major coworker who had just, literally committed suicide. So, that's going to take a plunge on your wanting to go to work. So, and plus, I mean, come on, let's be realistic too. The show was geared towards, these actors being in high school, and usually that could only last for so long. That's like some of these really popular shows where they base their characters that these characters are out of high school. They do get a couple more years out of it, but it generally kind of starts to disintegrate. Or the actors like say, listen, you know what? It was fun when I played this character as a high school person. Now you're taking me into the next step level of playing an adult, taking on more responsibilities. People are going to start to lose interest in watching us. We're losing interest in doing it. And usually the shows end up getting, canceled because the actors get tired of doing it and people get tired of watching it for that reason. Buffy was one. Buffy was a show where Sarah Michelle Gellar played and a kid in high school, and they went all the way through out of high school, characters getting married, the character of Buffy taking on the responsibility of being an adult, and basically trying to continue that theme. And basically Sarah Michelle Gellar said, I've did it for 7 years. That was one reason. And, she had a say. And plus it was just like, it was not as it wasn't pulling the crowd pleasers as it did when she played, the Slayer in high school, so to speak, and stuff. That kind of ran its course. And, hey, it was still strong hold, but that was a reason too. There's a couple other shows I watch where, actually that show I was telling you about, Boy Meets World, they actually did take that on for, I don't think it was 10 years. I forget how long it was. But they took these kids from middle school. I think it was like middle school, high school, college, marriage. And then they finally said, okay, we can't take this any further. They stopped that. Glee actually had taken the kids from high school, which was 3 years, college, and, because it was on for 6 years, so that kind of makes sense. High school, college, and I guess they figured, okay, there's not much more. And then plus the one actor died of that accidental overdose. So that actually, kind of probably said, okay, we've taken it as far as we can go. Two, now we've got a loss of one of our main characters and co-workers, so to speak, is the way I like to think of it. Excuse me. Sorry. Wow, I'm messing up now. I'm banging and coughing right into the mic. I don't mean to do that. But maybe that's my sign of saying, listen, Walter, there's not much more to talk about. It's going on like 4 o'clock in the morning almost by the time I get this up. So, I was off. I wanted to get back and do something. I want to try to keep these fresh and kind of just speak my mind at the same time. So, hey, I hope you enjoyed this. I got my reading glasses on. I got things coming up in my personal life. I want to watch some more of this Glee show. At this point, I'm lucky if I'll watch one more because it'll be like 5 or 6 in the morning after I'm done putting this up, and it does take a while to get this all put together. So, hey, you're listening to me. Thanks a lot, and if not, please, for the people that do, try to get other people to listen to. And thanks again. I need to sign off. So have a good morning on this Sunday, January 24th, 2016, and just thanks if you are listening. Hopefully, you're not one of the people trying to destroy my shows being on these social media networks. I hope you're not one of them, but for those who listen, thanks a lot. Have a good morning.